All right, so everybody, thanks so much for listening to Fire Breathing Rob. We have a special guest, returning guest for her third appearance, I believe. And if you're listening to us for the first time, please like, subscribe, and share. Really appreciate this. We're trying to get this interview and all of our interviews out to as many people as possible. So we greatly appreciate that. Again, like I said, she is back on for her third appearance. So we welcome her back, and we bring her back because we love her insight and we love having her on in general. Renae Baker, she's been through a lot, like we all have in the past year. So she can go into that if she wants. But Renae, first of all, thanks so much for coming on. We greatly appreciate it.
You know, Rob, it's always so good to be back with you. You're so real. I love it.
Can we talk about your business as far as caroling, I-S-M-I-L E, how you got into it in general?
Absolutely, yes. It is a much cheerier topic than yeah. It was Dr. Frank Gabriel. I drove him home from his last hospital shift before he died of COVID. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So what I do, what my life's work is all about bringing people together through Christmas music. And so a lot of people call me Mrs. Christmas or other things like Carol Boss. That's my favorite. But but anyway, I have a Christmas caroling company, holiday caroling company, but people usually say Christmas caroling, but we also have a whole section of Hanukkah and a lot of music that's non-holiday specific because we do like to be inclusive. And we are actually going into our 25th year, and we're based in New York. So the Broadway Carolers. And this year we actually went from being called, well, the name of the company is I-S-M-I-L in New York Productions, and S.M.I.L.E stands for Shine My Inner Light Everywhere, which is a long, kind of cumbersome name. I know, but that was the mission. So this year we've actually rebranded, and we're DBA, the Broadway Carolers, and one of our caroling groups is actually called the Broadway CARE-olers. And a portion of the proceeds from all those gigs go back to the Actors Fund or Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS. But our biggest, most popular group is called the Fabulous Fezziwigs. Do you know what that's a reference to, Rob?
I don't.
Fezziwig. Mr. Fezziwig was an important character in Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. So he was the guy that younger Scrooge was first apprenticed to, and he made Scrooge stop working to join the festive holiday party that the Fezziwigs were throwing. So really, the Fezziwigs are hosts of a rousing Christmas party. And that's what we do. We bring people together of all different faiths and races and ages together in singing. So that's what I do. I did give a TEDx talk a couple of years ago called Can Caroling Lead to World Peace? And it's all about the science behind making music together in a group. And we see this every year. Of course, last year was a bit of an exception because there wasn't a lot of live caroling. We did a lot of Zoom caroling. But people making music together in a group, you would be amazed at how it brings people together. And so that talks about the science behind why that works.
How tough was it to do the Zoom caroling, by the way?
It wasn't that tough.
Really?
I did you have to be together in one room. The singers have to be together in one room because there's a delay with Zoom. So like if you and I were to start singing, if I was to start singing Happy Birthday and you wanted to join in, there would be a delay. So you would think that you're caroling with me, but I would be hearing you come in, just a fraction of a second afterwards. And that's hard. So what we do is we get in one room, and I've got this beautiful screen backdrop. That's a big Christmas tree and a wreath and a fireplace.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So we put that up. There's pictures on our website. You can see what it kind of looks like. But so there'll be the four of us in our Victorian costumes. And I also have somebody offsite who's doing the tech. So with Zoom, you can actually look and see who's, there are Zoom bombers out there. So our tech will quickly catch that and boot them off. Also, everybody else has to be on mute because if they start singing and they're not muted.
Hold on, what is a Zoom bomber, by the way?
Somehow people, I don't know how it works, but they're like hackers. They find these Zoom meetings and they just kind of come in and, either they don't usually have their actual picture on the screen. They have some other picture, usually offensive. They might put some offensive something or other in the chat. So you want to actually get rid of those. So I always have a tech person who's able to make sure that everybody's muted. Because in between our songs, we invite them to either say something, to request a carol, or to put it in the chat.
Right.
So if they actually have a question to ask us, or something to say about their favorite memory about a carol or something like that, and then they forget to mute themselves again, that can be a problem, because we'll be singing a song, and right in the middle of it, if somebody coughs or makes a sound, suddenly you see their picture. And you hear them, and we get cut out. So it does take a tech person, but it's really not that hard.
You do also do acting as far as a coach. What made you
Yeah.
get into that in general? And yeah, let's just talk about that.
Oh, well, I've always been fascinated by humans, just human behavior. I mean, come on. They're really fascinating, and what makes them tick. And also,
Yeah.
I grew up Catholic. This is
Mhm.
important, because there's a lot of repetition. There's a lot of ritual in the Catholic Church. And I remember, being on my knees in church, and now and at the hour of our death, amen. The same things you're saying over and over and over. And for me, it was lacking meaning after a while. So even as a little kid, I was putting my own subtext. I was praying in my head different words than I was saying. And the thing is, that's the way we always are. We can be saying, I like the example, nice dress, and what you're saying is not what you're thinking, right? Or
Yeah.
nice dress, but it's just what we're thinking when it's different than what we're actually saying is so much more interesting. And so that's one of the reasons that acting actually went really well for me, was subtext. And so I started coaching because I had to put my whole career on the shelf, even though I was getting callbacks for all my Broadway auditions, or not all of them, but a good deal of them. And for personal reasons, my then husband and I decided we really needed to get pregnant right away. My father-in-law was about to die. And so we did. We got pregnant right away, and so my daughter is just a natural, and she grew up, I was coaching her to get ready for these different auditions. She wanted to go into showbiz. She did extremely well. She spent all of her middle school years on Broadway in 3 different shows. And then my son started to get into it. So people started to come to me to coach their kids, and they did really well. So I've got lots of kids that I've coached for their roles on Broadway. I coach a lot of kids and adults too, to get them ready for their auditions, which have landed them in Broadway, television, and film productions. So I love doing that.
Renae, can you talk about how during COVID and even still now, Broadway is hurting?
Absolutely. So, outside of just being in that industry and having a lot of friends and clients that are in that industry, my carolers, they're Broadway carolers. These are people who are trained in college programs, and I that's where I get my new talent. So we've got older people who've been doing it for years. We've got new people who are just hitting the boards. And so they audition for shows. Their whole life is auditioning, and then they have survival jobs at restaurants, right? So they're based in New York City. And when COVID happened, I had, every year with my carolers, I've got some that are off on Broadway tours. So they're not with us some years, and they come back the years that they are there. They're not on a tour or on Broadway, and they love to come back to caroling. In fact, they say they miss it when they are on tour. But of course, that's what they train for. That's what we're happy when they have those jobs. So we had several people out on Broadway tours, and just boom, everything just shut down. And so last year, I had some people who are usually on a Broadway show or on a tour who were with us, and they were the ones doing the Zooms with us, But a lot of people, I had carolers who it's expensive to live in New York City. But when you're auditioning for Broadway, it's a necessity to live in or very near New York City, so you can get in and out of these auditions. So there weren't even online auditions because there were no productions. Everybody was just floundering. Broadway shows that were doing really well, they just shut down. And so I had carolers go back home to Hawaii, to Seattle, to Ohio, to Michigan, to Buffalo. And they were just like, I don't know when we're coming back. It's just so uncertain. So last year, about half of my carolers, I have about 30 every year, they were just gone. And it was a good year to be gone because there was very little caroling work. But the caroling work that there were a few jobs, and we had masks on and we're largely outside. This year when we're outside, we won't have to have masks on, but inside we will have masks on, and you can sing through the masks. But
It
they
must take
were
a lot of effort, though. Sorry to interrupt you, Renae, to do that.
to sing
To
with a
sing
mask
through with
on.
the masks on, yeah.
It does take more effort. It really does. And you do have to have your break somewhere where you can take that mask off and just breathe more easily. Um, but yeah, so that's what it was like. They were gone. And then, at the beginning of last year, they were still like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure when I'm coming back. We just have to play it by ear. A lot of them still didn't come back. And now I will tell you, you see, there's a few shows opening on Broadway. And I would say the people that have been around the Broadway industry, I think that the casting people have been really cognizant of just like getting them back in there. And so a lot of the people that I have who have been in lots of Broadway shows are unavailable this year. But I do have some that are available. And so all of a sudden, Rob, this past week, all the jobs are coming in. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I've got to go look at these programs. They've got their showcases from their Broadway programs for colleges. They're taped. So I'm thinking I need to actually look at some of those and maybe bring on some new carolers this year because suddenly there's a lot of work.
As we keep going into the interview again, Renae Baker, hey, I'm Fire Breathing Rob. Renae, can you talk about, you just went into every Saturday of what's going on, but is there anything else going on as far as with the caroling that you're doing, or anything you're specifically doing for Christmas in general besides that first Saturday of the month on Madison Avenue?
Yes, there's a lot going on. In fact, I would say most of what we usually do are they're clubs, they're social clubs in Connecticut, New Jersey. We're branching out into Pennsylvania, and of course, yeah, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. They would be these social clubs. And last year, almost all of them, they started to think they were going to open up because we all thought last fall it was going to be gone. And then almost all of them just canceled like a week ahead of time. And except for one, we did one. And this year, almost all of them have come back, which is great. Because even if we're just outside the door, greeting them as they come in, or just inside the door if the weather outside is frightful. So a lot of those have come back. The restaurants that we were at have not all come back. The Lambs Club was a big one for us every weekend. But the Bluebird, London, New York, that was one that we actually did last year with masks on. And I'm hoping that one comes back this year. But there are a lot of these clubs that have come back, and shopping centers. So, individual, like either the outdoor strip malls, they want to have an event to have maybe a tree lighting or a menorah lighting, or just to bring people back to shopping. And that's a really good thing this year because ordering things here, there's such uncertainty about whether it'll arrive on time because of all that backed up traffic, right? All those boats out in the middle of the ocean just not able to get unloaded. So I think people are coming back to shopping centers, and these shopping centers are really interested in getting people. So having carolers there is one of the ways that they're doing that again this year. In fact, I can tell you right now, the Queens Center Mall in Queens is having us there on a series of Saturdays this year. So that's a regular one. People could come out, and that's a public event, and that's indoors. But there's going to be some outdoor shopping centers as well.
What are you hearing from parents, friends in general, as far as these kids not really knowing much about Christmas history, caroling in general? What are you hearing from people?
Well, this is actually a real thing. It's a big deal. Now, I'm not sure that even a lot of adults know the history of carols. This is where I come in. I love letting people know. I have a blog about it. I do a radio segment called Now You Know Well, where I talk about the history of it. But what you're talking about with the kids, now I grew up singing carols in church and singing carols in school for our Christmas concert, right? I grew up in Michigan. And now these days, if you go to a public school, people are observing more the separation of church and state. which,
Right.
look, I understand that. I think there should be more inclusive. There's a lot of people. We're a much more blended society. There's a lot of different religions being observed, and we don't want to shut people out from holiday spirit, right? And people who would really like to spread Christmas messages, you really don't want to shove other people away from that. You want to bring them in.
Right.
So I think it's great that schools are having more, holiday, non-holiday specific Christmas songs. But that means in a in a public school, your kids are not learning Silent Night, God Rest You Merry Gentlemen, Good King Wenceslas, my favorite. Anything that talks about, Christianity, away in a manger,
Yeah.
so a lot of people, a lot of parents who grew up singing these things in church and in school, and then as adults realized, no, I really don't, I'm okay with not going to church and raising my children that way, or I'm okay with not having, my kids sing about Christian themes in school, are suddenly realizing at Christmas time, like, they don't know, they don't know Silent Night. They don't know Oh Holy Night. Wait, and it makes them sad. Like, my kids didn't like the Peanuts special. Like, oh, with you, but they don't like it, and it is kind of sad. So when we're out caroling at an outdoor mall or an indoor mall or at the New York Botanical Gardens, and we'll get a whole crowd around us, and you should see the parents' faces. They're like, and they bring their kids there, and in non-COVID days we share, jingle bells. I
Yeah.
have to still figure out how we can arrange that. But car keys, parents pull up the car keys, they make very good jingle bells. Um, they do. But they'll get their kids singing, and you should just see their faces light up, and they're looking at their kids because they want to see their kids' faces light up
Mhm.
about watching carolers and taking in that Christmas music that means a lot to the parents. And with the caroling, it's one of the only ways that the kids get this these days. And so therefore, it's one of the only ways that the parents actually get to experience their kids having that, what turns out to be an important tradition for them. Oh yeah, I was just thinking, I don't know, something you said made me think about, I guess it was a Wenceslas. We love to sing at nursing homes.
Mhm.
And this is an older crowd, obviously, who grew up with this everywhere. And a lot of these people in the nursing homes, they don't remember what they just had for lunch.
Yeah.
Some of them don't talk at all. Some of them just, have their heads down all the time. But we come and sing for them, and sometimes their grown-up children, will be visiting during that time, and they'll be like, oh my gosh, they've lifted up their head. I haven't seen her smile in ages. And they're singing along. And if they don't have a voice, they're mouthing the words.
Yeah.
And they'll even make a request here and there. And these are people, a lot of them, that just never talk. And so carols really bring joy in that way to these people, but also to the people who love these people, just to be able to see them come alive again like that. But, nursing homes and places like that are often places that don't have a budget for it. And we carolers love to be able to volunteer to do that. But because, you were talking about Broadway, no other industry was hit as hard, industries, as a showbiz and special events,
Yeah.
gathering together. So, and these were people who you would call poor, starving artists to begin with, and their survival jobs were in restaurants, which also, really got hit hard. So with our we got a new website with as we're going into our 25th year. And so I decided to have what we call Wenceslas Fund, because Good King Wenceslas, that carol? He
Mhm.
was a real person, but he was a duke at first. He became a king posthumously. It's one of my favorite Christmas histories. And but he would go out on the 26th of December, Boxing Day, the feast of Saint Stephen, which is about giving back, to the poorest. Not giving back, but giving alms, giving gifts to the servants and the poorer people. And so that's been my favorite carol forever, ever since, especially since I found out that's a true story in the carol. And so we have a Wenceslas Fund for if people want to be able to help us go to nursing homes and places like that, places where it helps us to be able to, volunteer, because like I said, the actors, they're like, they've just got to, they want to be able to volunteer, but they've got to take whatever work they can that pays. So anyway, I should give the website. Is that okay?
Yes, yes. Yeah, where can people find out more about you, Renae? Find out about the caroling in general. And also, if you could even extend on that, if
Uh-huh.
they are not in New York, maybe they still want to watch you. Is there a way to watch, whether it's Zoom or through the website in general?
Yeah, there are a few different ways. And so the website is very easy now. It's BroadwayCarolers.com. There's only one L in caroler. So you don't even have to put the www on, but you can .BroadwayCarolers.com. And on there, you can see all sorts of pictures, all sorts of videos. If you did want to donate to the Wenceslas Fund, you just look for our uh, our spirit or giving down at the bottom. It's not very obvious, but you can go down there. You can find it if you're looking for it. And so you can see videos of us. You can hear lots of audio clips. We've got these 2 CDs. This one is a New York Hanukkah smile, and this one is a New York Christmas smile. And you can hear lots of clips from these on the website for free. And we are also, there are live, if you go to my Facebook page. So just look me up, Renae is how you spell my name, Renae Baker. And I think you can also find us on Broadway Carolers on one of my pages through my Facebook. We'll be doing a lot of Facebook Lives. And of course, those get recorded so you can see us there. You can also go to YouTube and look for us. We've got some carol chats and we've got some videos of us caroling. And but the best thing to do is to go to the website and you can see us. And you can also contact us there if you want to have, we call it I'll be Zoom for Christmas. You know, our if you want to get your family together online and request carols. And you know, we did, they were very successful last year. We also made videos tailor-made to people that they would just have the video and play it whenever they wanted to, or send it to people as a gift. So we can do things like that as well, and change the lyrics, talk about your, you know, your family in the way that you've given us to reference, things like that. But so just contact us and we can do something like that for you. Get you set up online if you don't live near New York City.
Last question, where can people find more about you personally in general?
Oh, well, okay. Thank you. There's another website and it's my name, RenaeBaker, RenaeBaker.com. And then you'll see more about me as an author. I did write a book called Defeating Scrooge, How to Harness the Power of Christmas Carols to Revive Your Spirit Any Time of Year. And there's also the audio version of that you can get on Kindle as well. So you can learn more about me doing that, my writing and the kids acting coaching and things like that. So RenaeBaker.com.
RenaeBaker.com. Definitely check her out. And also all the other websites we'll put in the description box. I know there was a lot there, so that's why we'll do that. But Renae, it's always a pleasure. This will not be the last time we speak.
Oh, good.
And I'm looking forward to our next time. Thanks so much for staying in touch, and thanks so much for coming on.
It's my pleasure, Rob, and happy holidays to you.